Welcome to another edition of the Linked Parishes podcast. I'm Donald McCorkindale, Minister of Highland and Ardnamurchan, linked with Ardgour, Morvern and Strontian parish churches, bringing you news from these parishes and beyond. In last week's podcast, I had mentioned I was recording it on the Thursday, and that by the time you were listening to it, the coffee, cake and conversation at Treeslake Village Hall would have passed. It did indeed, and it was a good evening with some good conversation. And the next gathering at Treeslake Hall will be a little different, not on the first Thursday, but on the first Friday the 3rd of October, when we'll gather 6 o'clock for 6:30 for the Harvest Supper. Watch out for more details about that on the church website, posters, social media and elsewhere. And if you're around the Lochside on the 3rd of October, you will be very welcome for that Harvest Supper. Now, today, I don't have a guest as such. We'll be hearing another voice later on, but I want to tell you about some other guests that are queued up for future podcast episodes. Later in the month, Claudia Nicholson will be telling us about her pilgrim walk on the Camino de Santiago. So we look forward to hearing more about that. And next week, Elizabeth Carmichael from Ardgour will be telling us about the Guild annual meeting. Always a good motivational event, the Guild annual meeting this year, coming from Perth North Church, beginning tomorrow, Saturday, the 13th, at 10:45, and it will also be live streamed, and the link will be in the podcast description in the notes there, live streamed from the Church of Scotland website. So be good to hear about that next week, but I do encourage you to watch the live stream if you are able to do that tomorrow, Saturday, the 13th of September. And then on Sunday the 14th, I will be leading worship at Ardgour and Strontian. Ardgour at 10 o'clock, Strontian at 12 noon. And at Ardnamurchan, the Reverend Gordon Palmer is the visiting worship leader who will be leading worship at Ardnamurchan Church at 11 a.m. And then in the afternoon, we have worship at Kingairloch, and all will be welcome there. 2 o'clock, Kingairloch Church, beautiful wee church down there at Camas na Crois, the Bay of the Cross. And those gatherings after our worship in the church, there will be afternoon tea in the wee kitchen in the church. Always a good gathering. On Wednesday last week, I was up in Strathpeffer for the Presbytery annual conference, the second annual conference for Clèr Eilean Ì, the Presbytery for the Highlands and Islands. Elizabeth Carmichael was also attending that. She is our Presbytery representative elder for Ardgour, Morvern and Strontian. And we might hear some reflections on that from her next week, when we'll also be hearing about the Guild annual meeting. Tommy MacNeil was the keynote speaker, and talking about some of the themes that he wrote about in his book, Sleeping Giant. And one of the key phrases that he mentioned on Wednesday and one that I jotted down. He said, "The future of the church is with people we haven't met yet." Wow, there's a thought. I've often spoken about a quote from Peter Nielsen, who 25 years ago, around the Church Without Walls report, had said, "What kind of church are we leaving to the next generation?" And there's something of that in the future of the church is with people we haven't met yet. It's not all about the next generation. So many in our current generation seeking, wondering what life is all about. And we have a story to tell and to share. Paul Beautyman spoke in the afternoon. Paul is a freelance consultant in youth ministry. I've known Paul for many, many years. And after his presentation, one of the questions put to him was, what would be one word that would sum up what we need to do to re-engage with young people, with the younger generations, the missing generations? And his one word, go. Go to the schools, the community, the places where people are, and let's share the good news. The good news of God's love for all. The good news that Jesus brings life in all its fullness. It was a good conference. Having said that, something else that Paul had said was, we actually need to do less of this, less of the meeting together in conference, less of the talking, and just getting out there into our community. I want to share with you now, I said we'd hear another voice. Let me let you hear the last 6 or 7 minutes or so from Tommy MacNeil's presentation on Wednesday, where he shares something of his story of the around 20 years or so as minister of Martin's Memorial Church in Stornoway on Lewis. Over to Tommy MacNeil.
When God created the world, he could have done it any which way he chose, but he chose to do it by speaking. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light." In what you've just shared, and maybe for some, there's been something burning in your heart for a long time, but maybe it's something totally new and fresh that's come to you. By speaking that out, there's the power of life and death in the tongue. You've brought something into life. And then when God takes that, so let me tell you this question, what do you have? So I need to do this as quickly as possible. Came to Martin's in 2006. What do we have? Nothing. We had 80,000 in the bank, but that was going to be used for a new heating system. So we had nothing. The congregation were at a fairly low ebb financially. Things were at a very low ebb. They'd been struggling for years. But I'll tell you what we had is that we had a group of people whose hearts were growing in God and growing in their love for God and growing in their heart for our community. And people sometimes ask me, where did the Shed project begin, which we opened in 2014? It began in 2006 because we did something called the Giving Tree Initiative. I got in touch with the local authority, homelessness, alcohol and drug support services, the local health board. I said to them, can you send us the demographics of those who are in your care, of those you're working with, single mum, single dad, 2 kids, whatever. Took that information, put it on a Christmas tree in the entrance hall of our church, and then said to our folk, listen, there's people out there that Christmas isn't the happiest time. Let's bring a smile to their faces, especially families. Take a ticket from the tree, go and buy gifts, bring them back to the church, and we'll then give them to the services, and they'll distribute them to the people. That was a game changer for us because it opened the eyes of my people in 2 ways. One, there is very real need in our own community, very real need. But 2, you can make a very real difference to the very real need that is in our community. That began to sow the seeds of a heart for our community within our church, taking us forward into 2014. In 2009, we did a refurbishment of our sanctuary, cost us £300,000. So the 80,000 just went a little bit, and we did it by faith. God then began to speak to me about the Shed project, and I was concerned pastorally because it was going to put too much of a financial burden on our people. And I sought out one of my senior elders who was a businessman, and he says, Tommy, I have one question for you. Has God told you that we need to do this? And I said, I believe he has. He says, well, this conversation is over. So we built the shed. That was 270,000. Tomorrow, what day is today? Wednesday. On Friday, we've had contractors on site in our own church hall because the shed grew from having 2 members of staff in 2014. We now employ 17 staff across 3 main services: family support, alcohol and drug support, and youth and schools work. The building is now beyond capacity, but our work and our heart to love and serve our blessed community isn't. So we came up with the concept of the barn project. And the reason why I asked the day is on Friday, after 10 months, we will receive keys to the barn project, which is a brand new family centre to help house the family work that we're doing and give a space where families can gather. Friends, I'm telling you this is a testimony from God. We didn't have the money when we started the project, working towards it 3 years ago. The shed has come in at a cost of £1 million. That's how much it's cost us, £1 million. When I received the keys on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock from the main contractor, we do not owe 1 penny on that building. Not 1 penny. And let me just say, hallelujah for the general trustees. Honestly, bless God for the general trustees. We wouldn't be able to do what we do were it not for them and their support of our work and many others. And there's this principle that I learned from Hudson Taylor. God's will done in God's way and in God's time will never lack God's supply. So that's why I'm asking you, what do you have? You may not have much, but if you have a heart. Then so as Jesus commissioned the disciples and asked them this question, what do you have? And as they go out, it appeared they had so little, 5 loaves and 2 fish. And maybe in the enthusiasm of what I bring today, that actually it could be a discouragement to you because you feel, but we've so little to offer. Well, my friend and one of our elders now, Reverend Kenny Borthwick, has this spiritual principle. Little is much when God is in it. Just take what you have, bring it before God, your 5 loaves and your 2 fish, and watch him perform miracles with the little of what we have. And of course, we know that they distributed the food. Jesus took the bread and loaves and he lifted them up and he gave thanks. Now, why did he do that? What's interesting is, and this for me is the goal behind a lot of what we do in terms of our community work, is that we're told that Jesus had them sit down in the grass, groups of 100s, groups of 50s. Took some time to do that with a crowd of 8,000 to 10,000 people. But the reason why Jesus did it was very simple, so that when it came to him performing the miracle, he literally lifted it to heaven and asked God to bless it. It meant that all of the eyes were on him as he performed this miracle, and that they knew that this was the God of heaven who was providing for them. And our heart and our prayer is, and all that we do is, let them see something of Jesus in who we are and what we do and how we help provide for them. Let them see how good our Father in heaven is. And let them be blessed to be able to receive from his hand. And just briefly before I show a media clip, they all ate and were satisfied. Amazing. I promise you that if you have a heart to reach out with what you have, God will provide everything you need so that those who you want to reach out to, that there'll be the provision there that is required. But of course, we know that as well as feeding those who were there, that there was 12 basketfuls of bread and fish left over. And that was God just, because he loves numbers, he loves working numbers. And that was God just reminding his disciples, listen, there's 12 tribes. The gospel that I'm imparting to you, at the moment your understanding of it is that it's just for you as my disciples and it's just for the Jews. But there's going to be a day coming when the church is going to come alive, that the gospel is for the whole world, not for a certain people, not just even for those who go to church. In fact, John 3:16, for God so loved, not the church, that's part of it, but God so loved the world. What would it look like for you and me to partner with Jesus in making the love of Jesus real and visible and tangible to our communities? It can start by us just thinking, well, what do I have? And if you have the heart to do it, then that's enough for God to work with. And then he'll provide everything else that you need. Let me bring this time to a close. We're going to watch and listen to this song. It's a song called Tears of the Saints by a band called Leland. And it speaks for itself.
Thank you, Tommy, for these encouraging words. The song that Tommy had us listen to, Tears of the Saints, you can listen to following the YouTube link in the notes in the description. Monday and Tuesday next week are in-service days, and we think on our pupils and staff in the high school and the 5 primary schools around the peninsula. Tea and scones fortnightly at Ardnamurchan Church will be happening next on the 24th of September, 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock in September and October. And then into November, after the clocks have changed, do remember that, the last weekend of October. After the clocks change, the tea and scones will be at 10:30 in the morning, 10:30 until 12:30. So that will change from the 5th of November. Every Sunday, there will be either a worship video, pre-recorded video with some different voices from around the Peninsula Churches, or a live stream from one of the churches. And details of all the online activity, including our monthly online worship with communion, which will next be happening on the 28th of September. You'll get details of all those online things at peninsulachurches.org.uk/online. It'll take you directly to that page. Wednesday evening prayers every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Now, just before I hit record, I had picked up an email which kind of nothing to do with the church, but I'm going to share it with you. Argyll Energy have the Scottish Churches Oil Group, and I've been part of it for many, many years, and I'm able to get the heating oil here at the manse at a slightly reduced rate. And their email today was reminding me that they now have that scheme open to a wider section, open to all in the church congregations and indeed the church's wider community. So if you're listening to this, I think you'd qualify, and you will find out some more details at argyll-energy.co.uk. And you can speak to me about it, or you can email Clèr, Claire, at argylluk.com. That's ARGYLEUK, that's all one word, .com. And you might get a better deal on your heating oil. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to the Linked Parishes podcast, and details of everything that's happening around the churches you'll find at peninsulachurches.org.uk. Thank you for listening. May God bless you all.